Okay, this is not a very popular video to make. Technically, you need to make a video today where you say you follow Andrew Tate's advice, but I'm still a very big admirer of Jordan Peterson. That's why I dedicate this video to him. So as the title said, I followed his advice for about 2 years now, and it had a pretty big impact how I structure my life and how my life laid itself out. And he used to be a very controversial figure, even though I think he's not a very controversial person. I think he actually just, says what he thinks and what the study says in terms of like psychology. And so I don't understand why they're trying to take away his like psychological license at the moment, but that's unfortunately the world we live in today. And actually I had quite a big confrontation with the woke culture, political correct culture myself. So if you watch this the full video, you will see what I mean. Okay, so let's hop right into it. The first thing that I really took by heart what he said is that you should set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. And that is something that you wouldn't usually think of, especially in today's world, because in today's world everybody is like on the media all the time. Everybody can criticize the government all the time, right? Everybody can say like, oh yeah, this sucks. But what is actually far more important is to like get your life straight first before you start criticizing everything around you, right? I used to be a bit like I criticized everything that was happening in the world all the time, even though my house wasn't in perfect order. So I started with that. I started cleaning my room, quitting addiction habits like smoking, drinking too much alcohol, like constant, whatever, TV, social media, and started working out and all of that. And then obviously that had a very good effect on my health, how I feel, on how much energy I have during the day. And once you do that, once you start focusing on your own life and your own habits, you won't really have time complaining the whole time about like what's going on in the world, right? Because you have just an overload of things that you have to fix before you can start criticizing something. Okay, the second thing that really resonated with me was the first chapter in his book, 12 Rules for Life, is about these lobster dominance hierarchies, right? I think there's there's a subtitle that says like all the girls. And what he basically argues is that, okay, lobsters fight for their territory and they go into one-on-one combat at one point, like the male lobsters. And the winner of these like one-on-one combats between male lobsters is gonna get all the female lobsters because they're gonna start hanging around the winning lobster's house, and it's gonna mate with them. So that's something that's very interesting that you can actually see in human behavior psychology too. Women preferably mate with males for combat winners and stuff like that. Just look at like sports, for example. Why are they so attractive? Well, it's like a form of human combat, and they just like master it to a very high degree. And well, the basic argument in this chapter is that we have dominance hierarchies, right? And they're as old as lobsters, and lobsters are billions of years old. And especially today, like the woke left and whatever, they want to get rid of social hierarchies. But if you want to do that, actually you have to get rid of nature, because they're like in any natural system, you're gonna have dominance hierarchies, and they're fluent, right? They change with time. Like it's not like there's one dominant male, female, whatever, which is at the top, because obviously females have like social dominance hierarchies too. So it's something that changes with time. When you watch a bit of his lectures, he kind of says too that you should become, especially if you're a man, you should become assertive, and you should put your needs and wants forward. That's something, especially if you're a man today, that's kind of culture is telling you to avoid that, because if you go for what you want, then like people are not going to respond very well to you in some cases, because, well, you know, you're gonna have conflicts with their needs and wants if you assert what you want. Let's take a very simple example. Let's say you go into a bar, there's a beautiful woman and you want to talk to her, but there's two other guys that talk to her. So if you like have this like self-sacrificial mindset, you would say, oh no, like I don't want to rock the boat, I'm not going to talk to her. But if you're assertive, you just go to her and, you know, start talking to her anyhow. And the interesting thing here is that actually that is also proven in behavioral psychology. Dominant behavior triggers submissive behavior. So if you go for what you want and you have no inhibition about going for something, that's actually signaling that you have a certain degree of that's perceived social status, because there's a difference between actual social status and perceived social status. So like social status is something kind of fake. Well, let's say you buy very expensive clothing, you buy like a luxury car which is very expensive, but you go into debt for it. You know, you can't really afford it. Then you don't really have social status, but you have a high perceived social status. So people who are gonna meet you will automatically assume that you have social status because you display these markers. Even though that's not the case. So it's actually, you can use that in deceitful ways too. Anyhow, because people know, especially women, that you can fake social status, I think they actually have a higher, you know, priority on watching somebody's behavior, because your behavior actually shows what social status you have. If you are a confident person, that's usually confident people are usually also competent and have a high social status or a high likelihood to acquire social status in later life. And that's probably why, you know, they've done an experiment, he actually talks about this a lot too, when you give women choices between two males and one has money but he's incompetent. Let's say like there's a rich guy, he got some money from his parents, but he's useless as fuck, he's not incompetent. And you have a second one who's broke but he's competent and his behavior displays that. They're going to go for the broke guy because his behavior is going to make him way likelier to move up the social hierarchy than the other guy, who's probably going to lose his social status because he's useless. Fuck, okay? And yeah, the interesting thing is here just that, you know, when you start following this advice, that you start thinking a bit more competitive, because you see the world in a form of a competition, and men tend to view the world more in terms of competition, which is, he makes that very popular with like agreeableness and things like that. Yeah, it's actually the case that men are more disagreeable than women, and disagreeable people see the world as a place of competition. If you see the world in place of competition, then you need to compete, right? You need to put what you want forward in conflict with what other people want, and that will move you up the social hierarchy. There's no doubt about that. And that's going to be very useful no matter what, if it's about like talking to women, pushing what you want in terms of career forward. That's just going to be very, very helpful if you just push and say like, okay, I'm competing and I'm trying to win this game, right? That really clicked with me, because I was always a more competitive person, but like society kind of got that out of me, because, well, take a very simple example with like meeting women. When you pursue women like dominantly, right? That's like the culture tells you the complete opposite. They tell you, oh no, you should be like a nice guy, friendly, respectful to women, all of this bullshit. And like, don't get me wrong, be respectful. Actually, when I started implementing that more dominant behavior, that boosted my results with women as well, and ultimately led me to have hookups with hot women, and later than a girlfriend, which was the first time real girlfriend I had, you know. So actually, thank you, John Peterson, for that. So you transformed me from an insult to a guy who got some success with women. Thanks for that. All right, the next rule that I really took by heart was tell the truth, or at least don't lie. This is something that is going to be very, very hard, especially if you base your life on lies before that, which I did. Like most of my life was based on lies. I didn't tell people the truth. I was deceitful as fuck. I was manipulative as fuck. And that actually, when I started telling the truth, that was a very, very uncomfortable thing to do. That was a very hard thing to do, because I'll give you a very simple example. So I was hiding anything sexual about me, whether that would be like, things like prostitution that would be get negative light to me, or like childhood sexual experiences I was embarrassed about. I was hiding all of that, like these feelings and thoughts from other people. And I was even lying to people around me. And when I stumbled across this work, I really took this stuff by heart and started telling the truth like mad. In the end, it got me kicked out of university, unfortunately. What a surprise. So there's another video on my channel which explains all of this. Basically, I just told my professor's wife that I had a fantasy of sleeping with her, and I got kicked out the next day. Okay, well, I think it's a controversial thing to say, but I'm just an example here of how the universities like work these days. If you say something that is outside of what I want to hear, or that is something that somebody considers offensive, you're gonna get kicked out. It doesn't matter if you're a professor, if you're a student, you will lose. That's just how the political landscape in the universities are now. And sure, some people say, "Now it's so overimposing" in the comments. I'll tell you something. Get the fuck out of this video. You don't have to watch it. Go watch some other videos. Like literally unsubscribe my channel and never talk to me again. Okay? Thanks. Anyhow, so again, I think I'm just a hardcore example for something that's happening in not just universities, but workplaces also. And you can see this with John Peterson now. He would probably lose his psychology license just for criticizing the government. Okay, so we're running towards mad political correct ideologies that are very, very toxic. And people lose their jobs, people's lives are being destroyed. And that's really not a very, very good thing, I would say. Okay, anyhow, telling the truth really transformed my dating life too, because in terms of women especially, they were more and more attracted to me the more honest I became. Okay, so the more I was telling them shit that I found embarrassing, that I wanted to hide, or other people told me to hide that too, it made me more and more attractive. So, for example, I went on a date once. I was telling this girl that when I was 14, I was dog sitting the puppy of my neighbors. I jerked off on the neighbor's couch. The puppy jumped on the couch, started licking my dick. And I was 14, so I let this dog lick my dick. Yeah, crazy embarrassing story, whatever. I hid that for most of my life, for more than 10 years, until I was 24. I was hiding this. And then I said, fuck it, I'm going to tell my neighbor the truth about it, because he was coming back that day and he was asking me hey, was everything okay? And I said, yeah. And I wasn't fucking lie, and I knew it. So I wanted to make this correct. Actually, my dad stopped talking to me for 6 months because I did that. So I called that neighbor and told him. And anyhow, back to the date. I told this girl this, and she was a very weird person, honestly, but she was Asian, hot girl, still a virgin, so pure too, at 25. Try finding that. And it was very hard, to get close to her and get herself to open up. And once I told her that story, she told me later she made the decision she wants to sleep with me. Okay, so there's something completely counterintuitive, and most people told me never, ever, ever, ever do this. But it actually is something that works very, very well in terms of dating, emotional connection, building trust, not just with women, with anybody. And obviously you're going to turn some people off. You might get fired once or twice or 3 times when you tell the truth. But I think long term, it's going to transform yourself really into the person you can be and we're supposed to be. It's going to make you a more trustworthy person. People are going to know that you're not lying to them. And that's something very, very good, because especially today, trust issues are rising like mad. There's a lot of people who report they don't even trust their own family members. And this is so fucked up that, I don't really know what to say to this, but telling the truth is going to be the antidote to this. Telling the truth is going to be the antidote to that trust issue, to the fact that you cannot trust your family members. As soon as you start being honest people are going to start trusting you, and it's going to work just fine long term, I would say. Okay, last like very, very counterintuitive advice point he gave was look where you want to look the least, right? So he has different ways of saying this, but it's basically saying you should face what you don't want to face. Like facing the things you're most afraid of. And that's a very, very difficult and hard realization if you come to the place where you start knowing that what you want to find is on the other side of fear. He talks about this in like his book 12 More Rules for Life Beyond Order, where he says, okay, he says it like a circle, right? He says, okay, this is the experience that you have, like this circle, okay? So this is everything you know. Once you go outside of the circle, you're going to feel fear. Then there's a circle of everything your society knows. And once you go outside of that circle, you go to the like uncertain territory, like the completely uncertain territory, okay? So I made this like on this paper here, but it's like kind of here, like outside of the second circle, it's like the completely uncertain world where nobody knows what the fuck is going on. And there you're going to feel the most fear because nobody can tell you what's going to happen if you do this. Actually, that's what the goal is, because you start becoming a very, very interesting person to people once you have stories where they just cannot believe you did that. If you're a guy who walks to a room and you did things that nobody else did in his life, people are going to be interested in you. And it's going to be making you more attractive too. It's going to make you mentally stronger too. He even says it switches on new genes. And the biggest one for me was that I started my business. This was probably one of the most frightening things I did. And it was the best thing I did. Okay, it was the best thing ever to do this. Still frightening, still hard as fuck. Best decision ever, okay? And the more fear there is, the more gold. And that's exactly what he says, and it was exactly my experience in real life. Attraction from women, sex with women, girlfriends, clients, every time on the other side of fear. Every time. Whether that's putting yourself into a position to sell somebody something. Going, like, pursuing a woman where you're afraid of because she's so attractive, Everything will give you gold. Long term. Short term might be shitty, you might get hurt. But long term works like mad, okay? So, John Peterson, probably not gonna watch this. If you do, thank you from all my heart for your advice, even though it's fucking tough to follow it. I think it's pure gold. And for all the young men out there who see John Peterson as a hero, I'm on your side. And I actually created an online university that delivers a lot of his concepts connected to what I learned in real life. I called it Giga Chat University. It's going to be open for enrollment the next days, 2 weeks. And you can sign up below. You're gonna get a 50% discount if you sign up now. And I'm gonna notify you once it's open for enrollment. We're gonna have weekly live sessions where I will give you lessons and online. You can ask me questions too. And the good thing is also you're gonna come together with other men who are also working on themselves, on self-improvement, working on their psychology and all of that. And later there's going to be a video on demand courses too, which is pretty dope. So sign up now. Thank you so much for watching, and stay strong, people out there. Peace out.